Hi everyone, this is Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket with two matches in progress. Yes, two. We have, of course, Australia are playing the West Indies, and it's not looking very good for the West Indies at this stage, which will be followed by England versus South Africa. Now, basically this will decide today who will make the semi-finals on the Group 1 stage, with England undoubtedly there anyway, but West Indies are certainly not performing to what we would have expected them to be playing. And of course, let's have updates the scores as we speak. We have a situation where Australia won the toss and sent the West Indies into bat, and Australia elected to bowl, and the West Indies are now 6 for 131. 6 for 131 after 17.4 overs. So in fact, they're 6 for 135, which I'll take back. Kieran Pollard certainly creating some havoc there towards the end. 41 of 26 balls was 4 to 6. Andre Russell just gone to bat as well. So 135 and 17.85 overs. You would think that was not enough. It's not the worst score in the world, but their current run rate is 7.57. The last 5 overs being 8.79. So they certainly picked it up in the last few overs, and that we'll see. Look, West Indies get 150 plus. You would think they can make some sort of match of this. I'm waiting for David Graveney to come today. David Graveney is going to be joining us. He's prompted me to be a part of it, so I'm just assuming he will be here. And Apana might be here as well. We've got a few people due to be on. But the reality is we have a game here that the West Indies, well, they're out. They're not in the finals, in final contention. We know that. But we would expect them to be able to put up some sort of a fight. With Chris Gale having scored 15 runs, was bowled by Cummins. Evan Lewis, quite brisk, 29 up to 26. Caught Smith, bowled Zampa. Nicholas Puran caught Marsh, bowled Hazelwood with a 4. Boston Chase only faced 2 deliveries, and he was bowled by Hazelwood. Hetmai, 27 off 28. And then, of course, Kieran Pollard with 41 not out. Bravo just got it not long ago with caught Warner ball Hazelwood for 10. And Andre Russell's in bat as well. So they're a long way from being in a great position, but I guess the Pollard innings has certainly helped. So the 6 for 137 after 18.1 with Pollard 43 and all that. So yeah, Buckle Dada, wow. West Indies has lost their head a little bit. Australia will trip off and lose in semi-finals or even final. Well, let's see how they go. I don't think they're going to. They're not really in a position to say that they're going to win the match, put it that way. Win the tournament. Australia's a good contender to reach the finals. I would argue not Baram. I would say that it's still England, and England absolutely thumped Australia. And Pakistan have been in overwhelming form, so I would say those two really are in a position not to be beaten. And 6 for 141, I can see that Andre Russell's hit a 4 for the first ball he's faced. 141, look, this is, where are we? We're at Abu Dhabi. 170 would have been a score that I would have hoped them to get. Buckle Data says that between England and Pakistan, who is your pick? Look, it's a hard one, Buckle Data. You'd have to go a little for England, but Pakistan, if they keep to the form that they're at the moment, they should give them a great chance. Yeah, so we've got An exciting match unfolding here. Australia, England is just awesome. I would agree. Hands down, England is the best team to lift the cup at the moment. You would have to say so. I would agree. I don't know why there's not getting any response there from. Okay, so we're just waiting on. It's a bit of an unusual time, I must say. We do want to watch a bit of the Australian batting forms, and I wanted to see how they'll go. 142. 142 is not what you would say a bad score at this point. It's not a great score either. So, Buckle, if Pakistan turns up, they can lift the cup. They are a generally momentum side. Yeah, look, they've had a bit of a gap the last few days. I can't see Pakistan lifting the cup, but again, let's wait and watch. Yeah, look, why can't you, Manu John? They're nothing but they've thumped both New Zealand and India and everyone else. So you can't say that they're truly out of form. Yeah, so 143. Who's bowling now? We've got Pat Cummins is only taking them on wicket. Josh Hazel's taking 4 for 39, bowled very well. And Zapple 1 for 20. I'm going to assume that Mitchell Stark will bowl the last over. Let me see what happens there. Yeah, so look, if Australia can, if West Indies can get 160, there could be something to chase. We'll have to wait and see there. At the moment, they're not quite there, but 160, 170 would be a score to chase. Kieran Pollard's just hit appears to be another. Proceed. Why am I having to verify myself all the time here? So after 19 overs, the West Indies are 6 for 143. Pollard on 44 and Andre Russell on 5. With it will probably be Mitchell Stark bowling the last over. If they get 15 plus off this last over, that'll make things a little bit interesting. I can't see. Okay, Pakistan has some minor issues which might bump into major issues, but again, Pakistan has an outside chance to take it, but it's not clear. Manu John, how could they have an outside chance? They're leading the group with no losses. They got an incredibly good chance. Incredibly good chance. Incredibly good chance. With Pollard and Russell there in the innings, you would imagine to see some fireworks. You would hope you would see some fireworks. Yeah, it's a hello there, no name. I wish you'd put a name against your name, seriously. Innings break. They're saying innings break, which that's what Mitchell Stark did there. Yeah, just Langer's laughing. I don't know what he's laughing about. His team's not had any great certainty to do anything here. But the ball's gone out of the ground there. No, it's not been caught. So Pollard's out for 44. Wicket second ball. Pollard's done well for 44. Let's just remember. Tried to hit the out of the ground, it didn't quite work. Hit it more up than long. Ozzy got to turn up the hit even more. They ain't enough to fry. No, that's true. I would agree with that. Jason Holder's in bat now. So we've got a dot ball and a wicket. We're not quite the finish West Indies would like to have for this over. Now, you would expect Australia to get the 143. I would have expected it. Jason Holder's 30 years of age now. I can remember him when he was very young, when he captain. That was up in there. Russell's balls just bounced in front of Warner. They've taken a single. 7 for 144. Very unusual to see Pollard play a ball not to the boundary in the last over of the match. It's unusual. Where's Carlos Braithwaite when you need him? Mitchell Stark comes in. Holder's taking a single. 145 with some 2 balls left. Gale can't open it all. It's completely ridiculous. That opening was given to him. Well, he's done some great things for many years, Manu. We can't knock him. Well, Russell's just effectively hit Stark out of the ground with great ease, actually. $151 with 1 ball left now. 151's reasonably competitive. Oh, we absolutely clobbered that. Yeah, that's certainly nothing slack about that. Gale is good for 3rd position, not isn't it? But maybe Manu, maybe you're right. I think another 6 is 157. That's almost 8 and over. It's a reasonable effort, certainly. I'll find what the number is. 76, there we are. Okay, done 76. Okay. Well, and in fact, there was yet another 6 at the last ball there. So 2 6s there in the match, 157 for 7. Look, that's not what I would call bad. 111 metres. That was quite a last shot, wasn't it? Nothing wrong with that shot. So look here. It's a pretty good way to finish. 2 6s. 157. That's nothing wrong with that. Nothing was sneezing out there. Now that's 7.85 per over. That's fair. So Hazelwood had the bowling figures of 4 for 39, with Stark 1 for 33, Cummins 1 for 37, and Zampa 1 for 20. Maxwell Mitchell Marsh both bowled as well, collectively having 4 overs in their total. Just watching a bit of a replay of the last over. Most unusual. So they hit some 14 off the last over, with the last 2 sixes being there. Yeah, so that was. Then, of course, Pollard gets out trying to hoik it, as we saw. I'm not sure what David Gravity is. David Gravity was meant to be here. We'll give him a minute. It just started to look like it had to have a bit, then he had 12 with the last 2 balls, which blew it away. Zampa, I think went for 5 and over. Mitchell Much went for 5. Glenn Much for 6. But then Stark, Hazel, and Cummins went for 8 and 9 and 9, respectively. Indians are praying for Afghans beat. There's no way. It's like expecting rain in a desert. Who's got the upper hand? This one, Abhishek? I would argue. Australia slightly. It's not conclusive by any means. 157 for 7. Now it's really, this is a match that Australia. Well, they have to win it. Yes, they certainly have to win it. And didn't kind of get all that. It's just falling short of Warner. Two sixes from Andre Russell to finish is pretty damn good. Let's be honest. $157. Now, it's not a bad score. It's not a great score. It's not a bad score. 170 would have been interesting. Holding it's a single, and then leaves the last 2 deliveries to Russell. That goes from 6 to 18 and 2 balls. Aussies have a 65% win-to-win chance of winning, provided they don't lose more than 1 wicket in the power play. Okay. Andre Russell certainly knows how to finish a match. Hitting 2 sixes off the last 2 balls is pretty damn good. And he's just whacked that one beautifully. He certainly knows how to clobber. Winning the toss and bowling first is once again proving to be a good decision. Hit that well out of the ground, well into the outfield certainly. Wait and see what he does with the last ball. A replay, of course. Tim Wilton Davies, T20 is coming home to England. Oh, okay. Andy Johnson, it's clearly possible by Australia. Look, Tim Wilton's, it is coming closer. That first one was 111 metres. This last one was beautifully hit, very crisply hit. It's gone for another big 6. So 158 to win is, not exactly a cakewalk for Australia. They'll have to perform. Can't afford to be too lax. That's for sure. Yeah, so that's leaves 157. That's by no means a foregone conclusion, but it's very much in Australia's way. Let's put it that way. Yeah, 157, 158 to win. Tim Wilton knows, what do you mean by coming home? He means, Manu, that it's coming home to England. He's assuming that it's going home to England, which is a pretty big assumption. So what day was coming? Anytime you like, David.
Anytime, right. Okay. Well, before 12:30.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay. Because I think we've got a few things to talk about, don't we? I think.
Yeah, we have a lot of things to talk about. Come and join me. I'm live anytime you want to be.
All right, that's fine. Well, I'll give you a ring now.
Okay.
We can talk about the affairs of state in English cricket, which
there's a lot to be talking.
Sealing the fixture at present.
Absolutely. Come join me.
So I'll give you a ring.
Okay.
Right,
ciao. So time-wise, it's now 12:30. Okay. I thought it was 11:30. So I've stuffed it. So he will come on in half an hour's time. Will David Graveney, Tim Wilton, Davey. So you'll have David Graveney here at 12:30. Okay. All right. So in the interim, we're dealing with a situation where West Indies are 7 for 157 after their allotted 20 overs. A stated win probability has changed to 44%. West Indies, 55% Australia. It's marginally closer, isn't it? The next match starts at, of course, 2 hours and 5 minutes. And then that's going to be extremely important. Bundaberg should be paying me. I love this. Bundaberg passion for it. All right. Let's have a look here. In the England-South Africa match, we'll have to say that South Africa got it all uphill for poor old South Africa. All uphill for South Africa, you have to argue. Uphill indeed, because they won't be really ready for Darren Ganga's there was when Tom Moody taught me the Australia West Indies match. This is by no means a definite win to settle for 7 for 157. Now I don't know whether this is with of course Russell. Two sixes. So I won't be a long way when Australia goes into that, and we'll see what they're made of. Well, I've got a bit of a wobble. A bit of a wobble that's going to happen with Australia. I don't think it's going to be all their own way, even though you would think they should have it all their own way. Tim Wilton's knows origin, the birthplace. Yes, we should know that. Now, Australia will start this innings, you would imagine, with some sort of attempt to get on a stranglehold. The reality is that England beat South Africa, Australia through the semis with England, with Pakistan heading Group 2 with only one position to be decided. So it'll be England, Group 1, England, Australia, Group 2, Pakistan, and probably a combination of New Zealand at this stage would have to be the box favourite, with Afghanistan and India perhaps fighting it out. So we've started here. Warner's hit a single on the second ball. Langton Rosary is the umpire. Starting in 21st match. This is Richard Ellingworth, also umpires in his 20th match. So what have we got here? What is Australia lose and South Africa will lose too? Who will qualify likely? If both lose, Australia still probably will go through. Depends on the severity of the losses, but yeah, you would think Australia would. Do you give Ashman's New Year a watch? Talks about team psyche and the future too. Right? Interesting talk. Yeah, well, not while I'm talking on air. I can't watch it. So the left arm spin of Hussain is on. Opening to Finch. I wouldn't necessarily say this is the form of completion. Mother Johnson's saying Warner a bit of a form today. Well, West Indies got nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. Australia have got something to lose. Yeah, they're just stuffing around a little bit, Australia. Not exactly what I would call, going for it. Bowling somewhat more of a cheekier pace. England could deliberately lose to knock out Australia. Psychological warfare. Well, it's possible. It's very possible. West Indies will come out all guns blazing, but I don't think England will allow South Africa to win. There's a DSC bat being used by one, not the one we've gotten used to, the Spartan. Final is India versus Australia or England versus New Zealand. India versus Australia is going to be a huge ask for India to make that final at this stage. England versus New Zealand. What about rugby, golf, and tennis? What about rugby? India is not making the semis. Well, it's all up to Afghanistan beating New Zealand. That's for sure. David Gravney.
How are you?
Good, David. I'm on a bit early.
Oh, that's fine.
How are you?
I'm fine. Just come back from Spain, so that was very nice. So
you look very rosy cheeked there.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been fine.
So where did you go exactly in Spain?
Sorry?
Where did you go in Spain?
Oh, right. I have a place that is between Malaga and Marbella, basically, Costa del Sol.
Oh, right. That's a nice area.
So,
very nice. And you fly there, I guess?
Yeah, from Bristol. So it's the world is opening up bit by bit, Norman. So
Well, it certainly is. I'm giving some serious thought whether I might go for the last week of the World Cup, because flying out of Australia to Dubai, we have no restrictions. Flying back home, we no longer have restrictions. As of November 1st, that's all gone.
Yeah, good.
So that's
be interesting to see who qualifies, really. So, these tournaments are really quite emotional tournaments because they are often seen as the sort of the end of people's careers. You know, they play the last innings, and I know there's a tournament next year, but it's more probably relevant when it's the World Cup on a 4-year cycle that somebody might play in one, and there's no chance of him playing in the next one. So it's quite an emotional end to a particular part of somebody's career. And I would have to say that's probably one of the more difficult phone calls I've ever had to make, is in that scenario of basically saying to somebody that they're not selected for the World Cup, knowing that that's their last chance, gone forever. So
that's hard. It's hard. The West Indies have made sure that, well, they've got Gale, Pollard, Bravo, even Holder. They're all there, and they're not. Well, at the moment, they were 157 for 7 off their 28.
They've got half, for the first time, got half a decent score.
Yeah.
But some of their, I know it can never be a perfect scenario with 6 teams, but there seem to be some quite long breaks between people playing. You know, particularly for the Indians, they played even if it were going to be long breaks, you would have hoped they might have slightly changed the seeding. So let's say in Group 2 that actually you would be playing either Pakistan or New Zealand at the end, so to speak, as opposed to having to play. Well, not having to play, but ending up with a slightly one-sided games at the end. But it's there's been some good cricket.
Oh, there has been. I mean, the West Indies have been generally disappointing, but today they've played okay. I thought Bangladesh were atrocious.
Jason Holder, how he couldn't be in the team right from the word go was just berserk, really.
Yeah.
And Shane Warne's been giving the Australians a couple of volleys from time to time.
Well, I would argue deservedly so. I would say deservedly so, because they have. I mean, they got through. They're getting through this at the moment. They're not going to go any further. I mean, England gave them one hell of a shellacking, didn't they? So that's the true test. That was a team that was of some substance against them. The other teams they've played so far, there's been no substance. So really,
but I think they would have learned some lessons from that. Their problem is that at the top of the order they're just misfiring, and they're obviously. And the one thing about England, and it's not organised, but it seems to me that there are very few games that you get Roy and Butler out together. One of them gets some runs, and now Butler's in some sort of form now that it's going to be. Because getting that 100 at Sharjah, which is the most difficult wicket of the 3, was extraordinary.
Oh, it was brilliant. It was absolutely. It's by far the best innings of the series. You have to argue.
But measured, Norman. It wasn't just swinging from the hip to start with. He stuck around for a while.
It was a very, very impressive innings. I just hope he hasn't played that innings a couple of games too early. I want him to do that.
I think he's quite a. It's just a very difficult bloke to bowl to, really. But there is no doubt if you start with spin, the batsmen have got to be brave in terms of what they're trying to do. And I think that to me, the bloke who seems to be more pleasing on the eye than anybody else is Raul. Actually, he is a proper elegant batsman, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Now, well, there's actually some talk that England may. I can't imagine this. England may allow South Africa to win so as to make sure that Australia don't qualify. That would be rather sinister.
Those conspiracy theories have been floated from time to time in lots of competitions, Norman, and in the end they don't transpire.
No.
Because, well, if they do transpire, then the anti-corruption unit might be making some inquiries to someone.
Oh, they'll be making some inquiries, all right, if that was the case. So, yeah, basically, if England beats South Africa, Australia are not going to be in the semi. And it will,
No, if England beats South Africa, Australia will.
sorry. England versus South Africa, it's okay. What am I saying? If England beats South Africa, Australia will make it, is what I'm saying. I should say.
But they can
Quite
still,
clearly.
they can still, you know, their bowling attack is now they've got the right balance and people know where they're bowling, and you know, Mitch Marsh is the right guy to play. Not that he's actually featured that much, but
No.
you know, if the first two feature, you know, Warner and Finch, then they can post a decent score, and they have the attack to defend that.
So look, you would have to think England obviously are going to be through. So England will play more than likely New Zealand. And
that'll be a
Pakistan
very interesting fixture, Norman, because there's a bit of vengeance, a revenge coming on that fixture. I just think that Kane Williamson has been troubled by an elbow injury and isn't quite at his fluent best.
True.
But you know that guy Glenn Phillips, for instance, he plays for Gloucester, and if he gets in, he can demolish, because they were struggling in that last game against Afghanistan, or was it? It was Afghanistan, wasn't it?
Pretty sure it was. Afghanistan to me have been very. Oh, actually, no, that wasn't Afghanistan, because we're hoping that the last game where Afghanistan beat New Zealand, that's what they're hoping. So no, they haven't played each other yet. But so New Zealand,
I think who did they play that they nearly
Scotland?
It might have been Scotland, actually.
Yeah.
But
New Zealand haven't been overly impressive. They haven't been exactly. Scotland actually got pretty close to their score, actually.
Well, once they knocked three people out, and they knocked Williamson out, they did well through Neesham and Phillips to get the score they were, because they were going really slowly. So, yeah, some of the minnows have had their moments, which has been quite good, and they would have identified new talent. Sri Lanka have, though the results don't show it, they've actually had their moments, but more importantly for them, they have created some new young players who are outstanding.
As Simon Willis told me all about on a previous episode, he went through some of these names in that slide.
Well, he created them. Well, not created
exactly.
Them. He identified them and worked with them, so he should take a lot of credit for that.
Oh, he's majorly responsible for that, and it's good to see. And they've come to fruition somewhat. And when they get some of the other players back that were given that ban, they're going to be reasonably, better off. Yeah, and I think they're going to be a much better side for it. So look, at this point in time, as we've said, England and Pakistan lead their groups, and quite deservedly so. I'm not convinced about an Australian side, or for that matter, a New Zealand side, being the great contenders. They've kind of slipped into the semi-finals. India have stuffed it, basically, which is really frustrating, because India, on paper, were probably the best side going into the competition. They haven't shown it. So it's going to be, very, very interesting. But today we'll decide who plays in Group 1, without a doubt. Do you give India any hope, David?
Well, their fate is in somebody else's hands, so that makes it. It didn't take them too long to turn around their run rate situation to actually be. That I don't know whether you saw that batting, Norman. That was destruction at the highest level. They just swung from the hip for every single delivery. So, I think that the one regret that sides that if they do get knocked out, they might have got out, but they certainly didn't play with the urgency and the confidence that they have shown in the last couple of games. I know different attacks, whatever you might have done in these attacks at the Indian batsmen, doing that against Chris Wokes is not an easy thing to do.
No.
But hitting Moeen Ali, with great respect, he's still just a spin bowler with only two guys out. and actually the intent that they showed against him was pretty minimal, really. So
Warner's on 23, Finch's on 9. They're none for 33 after 3 overs. They're starting to hit.
Warner's beginning to locate some part of his bat anyway. So.
Well, he got the 65. He looked pretty reasonable against Sri Lanka, but then he got out very, very cheaply straight after the next match, didn't he? So,
and they know how to bowl to Warner. He gets out in a very, very regular way against England, which is a ball that actually he should be leaving, and he just nibbles at it reluctantly. But so he'll be working on that. So, I wouldn't write Australia off. I think that they just have to look at how easily they got knocked out by England in the World Cup 50-over tournament, which was a non-contest. How easily they got demolished in this one, T20, and if I was, and it's I'm not. I wouldn't be presumptuous to say that I could influence, but the one thing I think they need to know is don't leave anything in the locker. If we lose, we lose. But playing all gun. Let's make it difficult for the English as much as we can. In other words, don't let the bowlers bowl, because if you do, we just won't get any runs at all.
Aaron Finch just got out bowled by the left-arm spinner Hussain of a pretty ordinary shot. So they're 1 for 33.
They were clever. They were clever about. They didn't bowl Moeen Ali at Finch at the start of the innings, so they changed it around a little bit and they got Rashid into the attack pretty early. Though I would say Rashid bowls a bit like an off spinner, because he doesn't bowl too many leg spinners. He didn't. Well,
Mitchell Marsh, who's had a pretty ordinary series so far, was in fact dropped. Has got himself back into the team, and we're going to see whether or not he can do anything here.
How is the Australian media, Norman, to the Australian performances?
Sorry?
How's the Australian media reporting the Australian performances?
They've been a bit encouraging. They're making out that we're a semi-final chance now, but there's been a bit of deflection from the Ashes discussion, which is still brewing away there, and the fact that you've had Ben Stokes and Joe Root arrive in Queensland with some of the other so-called Test specialist players.
Have they all arrived now? Have they?
They have. Yes, they were in a form of quarantine, which is hilarious, because they're flown into New South Wales. Well, they're still quarantined.
In a hotel on the Gold Coast somewhere or something like that.
Yeah, they were in Gold Coast somewhere.
That's a real hardship, that is.
Yeah, it is. But you got the under-19s team, haven't you, as well?
No, they're going to Sri Lanka.
Oh, right.
To play
so who's the
next generation of their stars? They seem to be in a. Sometimes will only last a couple of days, but Sri Lanka cricket seems to be in calmer waters at present. Yeah, their under-19s have just crushed Bangladesh 5-0. In an under-19 series, and they won the under-19 World Cup the last time round. So,
Sri Lanka seems to have settled down somewhat.
Yeah.
So in fact,
I think the expectation is, I think they've now understood that they have to move on from their, legendary players that they had, and just give a little bit of patience to a new generation. And these two young batters and the leg spinner, and also some quicker bowlers, which they've never had before, is the basis for a new generation. So,
absolutely.
And they seem to have got just the few glimpses that you've seen of the backup to this team, is that suddenly Jayawardene is involved, Shaminder Vass is involved, so that they've got the right people who are doing a job. And interesting enough, I saw this morning that Troy Cooley is now back working with the English team.
He's been around for a long, long time, hasn't he?
Troy's outstanding. So,
he's one of the best bowling coaches you'll ever get.
It was amazing. Australians, I know that, and I'm a victim of cuts within the cricket industry. However, Troy was so good at his job. Why would you want to get rid of him? So, But does the senior team have a different fast bowling coach? Is it the guy? Is it Saker does it now?
David Saker, I think, is no longer doing it as well. They've got Divenuto, they've got Andrew McDonald's. I'm trying to think who else they've got for bowling coaches. They did have oh my God, what's his name? The Australian fast bowler who was a very good exponent of swing, who was not around that long ago. He's been dealing with the women's sides, but he's now, I think, he's
not
more
Bickle, not Andy Bickle.
No, not Bickle. Keep talking. They played for South Australia. Had a lovely little swinging action. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. Anyway, well, it'll come.
It's not Scuderi, is it?
No, not Scuderi. No.
So what's he been doing? I am just in passing, Norman, because he appears to have just finished the gig and going somewhere else. Was he working with one of the franchises or Scuderi?
Yeah, Scuderi. I think he's got another franchise gig, and he's very popular. So I'm surprised he's not.
Well, he played a lot in the Lancashire leagues actually. So
yeah, who am I thinking about? Right arm, lovely swing bowling. Actually, not exactly express pace. Did some damage against Alistair Cook from South Australia. Come on, not Gillespie.
Ryan Harris.
Exactly. Ryan Harris.
I know more about your lot than you know about ours.
Yeah, Harris.
He bowled. They keep showing. I don't know which test match it is when he bowled the original bail trimmer to Alistair Cook.
Yeah,
that sort of swung and then nipped away off the wicket, knocked his off bail off. So
that was the ball I'm talking about. That's the particular ball I'm talking about. Quite outstanding. Warner's on 28 off 14. He seems to be thinking he's going to take it by the scruff of the net here. Dwayne Bravo is bowling. Look,
so when is the at the end of the match timings? Are you doing anything at the end of the England South Africa match?
The time, as in
are you doing anything then, or is this the only one that you're doing, like 12:30 UK time?
No, I'm straddling both. This is a bit of the end of this, but I'm going to continue talking on to the other game. The other game's only a matter of it's about an hour and a half away before it starts, but the toss will be within an hour. So I'm talking a bit long, David, today, because I think I wanted to talk to you about some of the county cricket woes that are going on. What's going on there?
Well, when cricket becomes, what time is your main national news in Australia? In the evening, 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6 to 7, yep.
Yeah, depending on what time zone you're in. This has now become item number one. Wow. Main news, not tagged on the ends, and even beyond the climate change conference in Scotland, and all the demonstrations which are increasing every single day of younger people. So it's a pretty serious operation here.
So we're talking about Yorkshire cricket, correct?
Yeah.
Are we talking about a specific person or what?
Well, the person that basically triggered the whole thing is a guy called Azim Rafiq, who is because he's still with us. He's a young lad, under 19 captain. Obviously from Pakistan, not obviously, but it's from Pakistani background. Born and bred in Yorkshire, and basically his career in terms of playing for Yorkshire before all this blew up, just from a cricketing point of view, went backwards a little bit because he lost his bowling action, which can happen. So he then became not necessarily employable because he lost one of the strands of his game. When he batted and when he bowled, and it's amazing if you have two strands to your job, how it impacts on either discipline. That in fact you play with much more freedom because you know you can come back bowling-wise. So if you take the bowling away, the batting, you suddenly think, oh, I've got to be a proper batsman here. So you changed all the way that you play. So I often thought that about Andrew Simons, that actually it was really good that he was able to bowl at the same time, so he could prove his value to the team. So unfortunately his career came to a halt, and then it transpired that he revealed that he had been a victim of racist abuse during that period of time he's been with Yorkshire. So an inquiry took place, a report was produced, and some seemingly odd things happen. And this is actually viewing it from the outside, Norman, so you have to take that in due consideration. Is the report that was produced, for some reason or other, didn't come out into the public domain, and it came out in bits and pieces like that, which I don't think has done anybody any favours. So there's lots of people pointing fingers at whether it be Yorkshire, whether it be the ECB, whether it be the government, because it's dragged on and on and on. And as it comes out in bits and pieces, other individuals have been involved, including Michael Vaughan. And Michael Vaughan finds himself in a position where an allegation has been made against him. That is being supported by another player. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do think it is scratching the surface of a subject that has been a bit like the elephant in the room scenario.
Yeah.
Whatever happened 25 years ago, or when I started my career, is not what happens now. And people have to change the way that they behave and recognise that this is a really sensitive subject that is not going to go away. And I have first-hand experience of that, Norman. It probably wouldn't have been reported in Australia. Bristol, where I live, has a I would say a murky past in terms of slave trading. So one of the statues was pulled down, dumped in the harbour. It's now been recovered. Of a guy called William Colston, and schools are named after him, concert halls, streets, and whatever, and that has all been started to be removed. Again, in that instance, that is only the tip of the iceberg. He isn't the only person who was involved a long time ago. But I think the question I would ask, this only as an individual, is how much my generation and my children's generation, how much are they to be accountable for something that happened 100 years ago? That is, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's being debated. So going back to the Yorkshire scenario, the chairman, who obviously wasn't around when Nazim Rafiq, these alleged incidents happened, has resigned, as a couple of other board members have resigned. And the implications for, and this won't have been reported with you, Norman, is that they've been withdrawn of being a test match ground. All the sponsors have walked out as well. So they're facing some real difficult times.
Jeez, it's a lot more serious than I thought.
Yeah. So the chair has been replaced by a guy called Lord Patel of Bradford, who is obviously from a nation background, outstanding man. He's been working in the community, became a non-exec or independent director of the ECB. Just fantastic in terms of everything he's done in terms of community cricket or whatever. You couldn't find a better person to be sitting in that chair than the current time.
Well, that's good.
But I do think it's one of those subjects, Norman, that it's a bit, not a dog with a bone, but it's a big story and lots of reflection going backwards. I've been asked to appear on radio programs for the last 48 hours, and these are, sort of World at One and leading programs on the BBC, which I've politely declined, but also I've been questioned on other subjects around my participation in the Rebel Tour, which took place 30 years ago.
Oh God!
And so it's
it's
dragging. And I'm very happy to speak about it. I don't see why I should not comment. But like, I went to a dinner. This was to raise money because one of my roles is what is called the Professional Cricketers Trust, which is the charity wing of the PCA, which is the equivalent to the ACA. And they had normal entertainment. It was not a completely male audience, but predominantly male. a guy who was of West Indian descent. Yeah, so he's black, because I think people are very conscious in this country of the terminology you have to use, because if you say the wrong thing, it has massive implications. So this guy was a black man talking, very funny, but he did start off and he said, in the current climate, I will be telling jokes to you that you wouldn't be able to say yourself because of the shift of sensitivity that's happening. So to answer the question around what happens with English cricket, they've got some issues, because I think it's one of those subjects that people will suddenly come forward and say, well, this happened to me 20 years ago. Now, it's going to be impossible to prove, but the moment that happens and people read it on the street, then they're going to have a view about cricket.
Oh my God, it's just overwhelming, because if you talk to someone like Monty Panesar, for example, he's always embraced his background, but he's also embraced the ways that, he's English. He's also played a lot of cricket in Australia. He embraces the country, well, the way of life, and he's certainly one that will make. He's not concerned about name calling or anything like that. He seems to be, he just lets it go. He trusts who he is and what he stands for. My only concern is there are some players that play on this both ways, and it's just, it shouldn't become such the center of all our discussion. That's what worries me. Whether you're, for or against it, or or you believe it or you don't believe it, doesn't matter. We've got to be very wary how we deal with the media. I think I'm talking generally. Someone like yourself is very distinguished, has a lot of respect, and we will listen to you because we respect what you say. Mm. But I think certain other people, like, I'm not impressed with Michael Vaughan at the moment. I think he's been a bit jovial about things, and if you look at some comments now, some people who actually adore him are actually not happy with him at the moment.
Yeah, so, he's a very popular person. He's a really good friend of mine. His son is at the school that I went to. Yeah, he's starting the cricketing journey, so but it's obviously a little bit of a chip off the old block. It's hard. It's hard because once the tide of public opinion momentarily turns against you, it can be like a fire that suddenly gets out of control.
Well, especially when you're really well liked. When someone like Michael Vaughan, who was very popular, says something, it can actually turn very quickly against him, can't it? Yeah. That's the danger of being so-called popular.
Yeah, and I've in my career, from the first time that I played adult cricket for Gloucestershire, in the side there were 2 Pakistanis, 1 South African. So there's some really and some West Indians. So I've always played in a side that has represented lots of areas of the world. So so I've never thought that this was it would be naive for people to think in the world of cricket that it didn't exist years ago. But whether it wasn't a major problem, not sure. But it goes back to the point I made before, is whatever happened 30 years ago doesn't happen now, because we are living in a different culture and it becomes a very sensitive subject. And I'm sure the banter that existed 30 years ago, I know, for instance, talking to Viv Richards, that he always had a really difficult, and this is not the Yorkshire players, this is the Yorkshire crowds that actually got on his case, and that was counterproductive, because the first time it happened, he got so upset that every time he ever played against Yorkshire, he got 100, as if he tried 10 times harder to make sure that he proved a point in terms of how he played. So.
I should welcome Banstead Boy. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, David. How are you? How
I'm fine, thanks.
I've
seen lots of your son.
Lucky you. I only come in very much towards the end of what you were saying there, David. I assume you're talking about the Yorkshire situation.
Yeah.
the problem as I see it is that once our British press decide they're going to have a witch hunt, they're just going to root out anyone who's ever said anything for the last 50 years. And because of the way we work in this country, they will be completely ruined because of it.
Yeah,
No
well,
matter what the
I've saying
context.
before you came on to Norman that I've suddenly been invited on lots of programs, and the only reason is the fact that I went on a rebel tour 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Now they're questioning me on, what was your moral stance then, or whatever, and I was very open. I said, if I had hindsight, is a wonderful skill to have. If the time happened again, and we understood. And it was probably the naivety of the players didn't understand the implications of going on a cricket tour like that.
Yeah.
So the bottom line would be, actually, I regret having gone on the tour. And that's all I can say. I can only apologise for something that happened 30 years ago. I can't change it. And I hopefully, and every cricket dinner I've ever done in that time, I've started off by apologising for going on that tour. And that's the only thing I can say. I can't say any more than that. And I hopefully, since that period of time, have served the game in the right way, that actually it doesn't matter where you originate from, that actually, we're all in it together playing this great game.
Yeah. Yeah. But sorry, Norman, what I was going to say, you know, David, that there's going to be a massive witch hunt. They're going to be digging out people who are going to say, he said that at that time, I was offended. And they're going to go after whoever it was. I mean, Michael Vaughan's going to be absolutely thrown under the bus, I assume, for whatever he said. Whether he said it, we don't know what the context is. Is context an excuse? Possibly not, but you have to take things in context of how they were said, how they were meant, and what it was. You don't just because Vaughan might have said, "There's too many of you lot." He could have been meaning the guys in the red vests. They could have been in red vests and yellow vests in the training session.
It could be the football team they support.
Yes, so there's got to be context. But at the moment, he's going to be vilified, as everybody is. I mean, crumbs. I've been in dressing rooms, Norman. You've been in dressing rooms. We all have. We know exactly what the banter that goes on. I've got a big nose. I was called Big Nose. Yeah. You called people. You picked on their most obvious fault or whatever, and that's how it works in dressing rooms. I'm worried about what's going to happen. I really am.
Well, it sounds like the damage has already been somewhat done, though, isn't it? It's a bit hard to unravel this.
The damage has been. Well, the damage, when you say no one events have taken place, damage. You may debate damage whether that's the right expression, but one thing's for sure is that people will come forward day by day.
Yeah.
They will suddenly have some sort of unbelievable recall of facts that happened 20 years ago, which they've chosen not to. We've had an incident at Gloucester. Again, you wouldn't have seen that, but this is to do with not a young lad now, David Lawrence, who played for England. Again, from a West Indian background. Parents came from Jamaica. And this fact, which is extraordinary, when he Mark Butcher did a program about Black Lives Matters in terms of the cricket context. I don't know what the title of the program is, and David Lawrence was interviewed, and a number of players who played high-level cricket, and he was alluding to a fact that when he first started to play, and this is in the second team, and I honestly, this is the first time I've ever heard this story. Somebody left a banana outside his room when he first started to play. The person who did that eventually apologised or identified himself 40 years after the event took place.
Wow.
And I find that just quite extraordinary. I then played in a game at Scarborough, which will probably be highlighted, which again, both David Lawrence at the beginning of his career and a guy called John Shepherd, who played for the West Indies, Norman, played for Kent and then played for Gloucester, was in tears at the end of the match because he couldn't believe the things that were being thrown at him and David Lawrence. And this, you're talking here, this is early 80s, nearly 40 years ago.
Yeah.
But things have changed because And you know, there are reasons why that happens in a crowd. You know, if you were playing a one-day game against Yorkshire, and everything's fueled by alcohol and things like that, you wouldn't be volunteering to be fielding in front of the Western Terrace. If you you know, you would need earmuffs most of the time to work out. But that was. But what about the poor blokes who play football? You know, whatever's happened to cricket, you can multiply that by 100 times what happens in football.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the din is so great, the players sometimes can't hear what's being said. In cricket, because of the way that people watch, it does actually get through to the players.
I think there was a comment, Norman, yesterday or the day before, on while you were on air on the comment section when it first broke. One of our viewers said, "How's this going to affect Virat Kohli?" Because wasn't there something that he got hauled up a little bit for some racist comments that was made, didn't he? Maybe a year ago or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't remember what he said, but
I think the Indian players, and for that matter, the press, have handled this whole thing really well.
Yeah.
First of all, they've stayed out of it. They know that it's not there. There's too many worms to get involved with there.
Yeah.
I know there's a comment about Hasaranga, who's been dubbed to be #1 bowler in the world from Sri Lanka. There's been a fair bit of racial comment made of him. When I say racial, a subcontinent form of racial discussion between other subcontinent countries as to why Hasaranga is #1 bowler in the world. Now, that's a fair point because really, you know, he doesn't appear as if he deserves it on the surface.
he's good though.
I'm not saying he's not good, but it does seem like Warner's just hit a 50. He's hit 51.
Yeah, I've got it on, and I'm literally, as you can see, my eyes look up. I've got my television on in front of my screen. So yeah,
I just don't think we can take this form seriously because when he played England, he got out very, very quickly. And I think when a team like Pakistan, who were in form, and England bowl to Australia, they're going to wipe them out. I think England and Pakistan are so far ahead of everyone else. I think we have to be wary of that.
Yeah, but Norman, these are going to be one-off games. These semi-finals are going to be one-off games, and the toss is going to be absolutely vital, as we've spoken about several times. And a one-off 2020 game, anyone can win. I'm telling you now, Scotland could beat Pakistan tomorrow. Namibia could beat India. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen. You just never know. So the tournament's wide open. I don't think the best side always wins the 2020 World Cup. It's much shorter. It makes the game so much closer.
How you play semi-finals, finals, really, is the way that it'll happen.
David, I hate to think that. I think the toss is going to come in to be a major factor when you get two very good sides, and the dew's going to be falling later on in the evening. I think that could decide it.
That has been a bit of an issue, but it's a shame. It couldn't be.
Just bring it forward a couple of hours.
A daytime match, but I can understand why, because it doesn't fit people's view.
Yeah, I understand why too. It's just a shame that we could see a final where, you know, side gets put into bat and they end up losing comfortably in not a close game, and that would be a real shame.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to compliment some of the bowling that's been delivered at the top of the order, and we've probably did better than anybody else has. In terms of with Wokes and combination of the spinners, Owen Morgan. I know he's probably somebody who's probably going to have one bat, I would imagine, in the whole tournament. The way things are going.
Let's hope. Let's hope. But he could almost win player of the tournament. Win player of the tournament, couldn't he? Because his captaincy has been so outstandingly good when needed. It's an overlooked skill in a way.
Well, I think his ability to be flexible, change, losing the combination of Archer and Mills is a bit of an issue because they now haven't got the pace that they need to be able to challenge.
Well, they bring Wood in today. I assume they'll play Wood, will they, if he's fit? I assume he's fit.
Who's that?
Mark Wood. Will he play today? He's going to be fit?
Wouldn't have thought so. I would think... and also the question of David Willey. They do like a left-arm seamer.
Well, they
No,
brought
I think
Top-
David Willie's. I think will be picked today.
You think?
But he has Norman. He can be red hot, or he can be.
Well, they might only think they need 2 overs out of him at the top, might they,
Yeah.
David? They might think if it's swinging, he could bowl 2 overs, and because of their bowling strength, they don't need him to find the other 2 overs from him. Maybe,
Right.
that might be what they'll think.
Just with
but
you in a minute,
course,
lads. I'm just going to answer a phone
okay.
call.
But his
Right.
batting, David Willie's batting, for people who haven't seen him, is quite extraordinary as well. I mean, to add, he would certainly not weaken the batting side. He'd add to it. He can hit a big delivery. He bats at the top of the order quite often in 2020 cricket.
I think he's a bit of a. I wouldn't say a dark horse, but he's someone who can really enhance this England side. Look, England. I know you've said about Reggie. You've said about anything can happen in the match. Anything can come out of the blue. But honestly, for England or Pakistan not to be the finalists is a travesty. Those 2 teams have been far and away the best 2 teams in the competition.
I think New Zealand have been pretty good too. They always under the radar. Yeah, they're under the radar every time, aren't they? They're just winning. They keep winning. Have they lost a game? They lost Pakistan. They lost Pakistan.
Yeah, they lost Pakistan.
Convincing.
But apart from that, they've looked just. They get the job done. They're so well led, and they don't play this superstar cricket, do they? There's no big mouths and big guys.
But I said to Norman that I just feel that Kane Williamson is injured or is not quite 100% fit.
Yeah.
Martin Guptill is a really exciting batsman, but he needs to deliver in a major game at some stage.
Yeah,
so,
he's a bit in and out, isn't he? He's not. He doesn't do it all the time. I wonder if Finch was injured, Norman. I was watching Finch in the field.
Yeah, he didn't look good.
I wonder if he's got a slight injury.
I think there's quite a few Australians that are actually battling forms of playing fatigue, obviously mental fatigue. But look, there's a few that
they haven't played any cricket for nearly 2 years. Got much playing fatigue. They haven't been playing.
Mitchell Marsh is getting away. Look, I still think Australia looking good against a very inferior side, as in the West Indies.
Yeah, this will put South Africa out. South Africa would have to beat England with a massive run rate difference because Aussies are going to win this at a canter. Oh, terrible bit of fielding on the boundary there.
Australia's through.
Australia's run rate is already high. I'd like to say, Norman, on my predictions before the tournament, you need to apologise to your countrymen. I think I'm on record as saying that I fancied Australia. Always turn up for the big tournaments.
Yeah, but they have. But
Norman
that's all well and good.
Immediately.
He did, yeah.
They haven't won a T20 tournament. You can't talk about this being an example of previous form.
Now, you said they wouldn't win a game. You said they'd be knocked out in the group stage, having lost all of their matches, is what you said.
No, I didn't say all of their matches at all. I said they would not make the semi-finals. I'm happy to say that I've been proven wrong. Okay?
You said the West Indies over 50s would get to the final, and they'd stuff
everybody.
I
didn't say over 50s anyone. I just said West Indies were the ones that should have won.
I've noticed Chris Gale is greyer than all 3 of us put together. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
He's what?
He's greyer than all 3 of us put together. Chris Gale.
That's debatable.
But you can't sit there and knock Chris Gale's performance overall.
He's had a terrible tournament, hasn't he? He would have been dropped from most sides for the last couple of games. He performed. He's there on love in a way, isn't he? And history, because he's not performed.
You keep giving him an extra chance because if he got in and he got hitting the ball, he could make. But how long's that piece? How long's that piece of string? The 2 guys that I've found really disappointing, or 3 in terms of batting, have been Pollard, Russell, and Bravo, who've they've got a reputation for playing some match-winning innings, and apart from Pollard getting some runs today,
got about 110 years between them, David, as well, haven't they?
But hang on, but Bravo was a part of
battering about this age thing. I played until I was 43.
Yes, but not in 2020 cricket, David. Maybe.
But Pollard scored 44 today.
the range of skills that I had did not suit T20. Left arm spin that bounced, so you get underneath it. Blocking batsman, and people refer to me in terms of turning in the field. They've seen milk turn quicker than that. So
you had the turning circle of the Titanic, David, didn't you?
yeah, it was not. So there's nothing that I would contribute to that.
So with Mills out for England, Willie's probably likely to go in his place.
Oh, they brought Topley into the squad, didn't they?
Yeah,
They
but
like
he wouldn't-
Topley
Topley
too.
Yeah, but just as a squad, though, he can't go straight into the team.
That would be inconsistent selection, I'd have to say. So.
But they like Curran. I know now Curran did have an injury, didn't he? But they do
He's
like.
got bad knees. So.
He's saying Sam Curran.
No, Tom
Tom.
Curran. Tom's in the squad. Sam's injured. Tom's in the squad, but I know he did have a slight injury. But again, he's someone they like in these conditions, don't they? He bowls a lot of slower balls.
Well, he's played IPL cricket, so he knows how to bowl on these wickets.
Yeah.
Though I'd have to say, I think I'm right in thinking, Norman, in one of the matches in the IPL, when I got to his conclusion, he got smashed all over the place by somebody or other. Did he not play for the Mumbai Indians?
I think it was. Yeah.
He certainly got well hit. That's for sure. You're exactly right.
Nilanshi Sharma's joined us.
Hello,
Mitchell
Nilanshi.
Marsh showing his worth at number 3 at last.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I don't get it either. I think it's a very poor positioning of him. He should be at the end of the innings trying to win the match for them.
Well, I can only view it from a selector's point of view, guys. That there are a couple of players that, and you can only watch, the only evidence you've got is what you see. Because I've always questioned Stone's playing, because I've never seen him do anything. But everybody raves about him as being this fantastic one-day player. And I'm sure he had his moments, but I've never seen them. And Mitt Marsh is a little bit the same.
Yeah, in this competition, except for the innings that he's performing today, he's been atrocious. Got our first ball or second ball, he got dropped from the scene effectively. He's back inside.
And then Warren talked him back into the team, so he did well. So. I don't think Warren is going to be on Steve Smith's Christmas card list the way he's going. So.
No way. Look, the going to the Ashes moment, the fact that Ben Stokes and Joe Root are already in Queensland gearing up for it is very impressive. Are they the only two that are there?
No,
Rory Burns is there.
They all left together yesterday.
The whole squad left apart from the people playing in the tournament here.
Right. So Crawley, Milan's not there. No, it would be Rory Burns is there.
Crawley, Pope,
all those guys.
Anderson Broad. The side could perform well. I was talking with Norman the other day, David, and the fact that Perth is out of the list of venues because we always get stuff there. If we can get away with the Gabba, the first test, if we can get out of that one without too much damage, we've got a sniff being Melbourne and Sydney. And a pink ball test, whereas there is a bit of light for England, I would suggest, than normal.
I think they've always had the light. I'm very confident they'll win at least 3-1 by the end.
What, England?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. We've got to score some runs first. I like Milan back in the side, and I like Pope very much. I think Pope.
Look at the World Cup. There's a World Cup stat that's come through. The most sixes in T20s is Chris Gale, 1,045. Nearest him is Pip Pollard, 761. Then Andre Russell, 512. They're the biggest six hitters ever.
Oh, no. Nobody disputes what they've done in the past, Norman. It just might be just one tournament too many.
Oh, there's no doubt. I'm afraid to say that too. I would have liked to have. Chris Gale's run somebody out. Look, I did overinflate their ability this tournament. I did, yes. I thought they would pull out a rabbit out of the hat and do that, and they haven't. Australia have been still. I believe Australia have not been great, even though they've been winning a lot of games. I don't think they've been great. They haven't played well enough to say that they're a threat to England or
I think they'll be the weakest of the semi-finals for semi-final sides. that's not.
But they'll use that as a strength. They will say,
Yeah,
actually,
I think they
nobody
will.
expects us to win anyway.
I mean,
Every time we rock up against England, we get actually annihilated.
Mm.
Pakistan are the ones. You go back to the 1992 World Cup when they won through some of the most atrocious umpiring I think I've ever seen in the world by Steve Buckner, who gave a couple of Pakistani guys out up front. It was just
Love
sitting
Steve
halfway
Buckner.
up middle, virtually. It wasn't even close.
They should never have won it.
When they're on a
92.
run.
They should never have won it. They were out of the tournament in the if you remember, and it rained.
Yeah, it rained
And they
in
got a
Adelaide.
reprieve because
Adelaide, when
yeah, we were
50 for 8 or something
50 or,
ridiculous.
yeah, England were chasing like you're right about 50 to win, and it got rained off, and the points were shared or something stupid.
Well, it wasn't. It was before Duckworth Lewis. That's why.
Yeah. Was that before your selection days, David?
Before the professors based in Worcester, in Bristol, worked on Duckworth Lewis, which has been an added addition to the game, but they weren't exactly the most entertaining dinner guests I've ever sat with, really. So for 3 hours explaining the mathematical equations that they arrived at. So.
Oh, do you
They're
remember
showing Chris Gale hitting sixes out of the ground against Brett Lee. Look, he's got a great history. I'm not going to knock the guy, even though he probably has played one tournament.
No, all three of them. I think they are great entertainers. And they're really
Andre Russell's just hit 2 6s in this innings. He finished innings with 2 6s. Come on.
And one he hit, it's the biggest 6 of the tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, 111 metres, exactly.
I think that Russell and Pollard are young enough that they could carry on if they wanted to. They're both in there. I think Russell's a little bit older. Pollard's only 34 and a half, 35, give or take. Russell's about 36.
Well, the T20...
Hang on. Let me hit it. You're now saying that someone 34, 35 can play in a tournament 2 or 3, 4 years later.
Well, next year, it's only 1 year.
You're saying you don't want all these old fogies in the thing.
Well, because
the T20 is happening next year, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's true.
But they're the younger end of the West Indies side, Norman. Crikey, 34, 35 is like mere kids compared to Bravo, Rampal, Gale, God knows. Galfu Sobers was in the squad, wasn't he? I mean, it's ridiculous.
All right, hang on. So Crick Legends has put his team of the tournament so far. What do you think of that? Rizwan, Butler, Bubba, Azam, Aslanka, Aiden Markram, Punt, Santner.
Santner?
Yeah, I don't know why Santner's in there. Zampa deserves to be in there. He has bowled well.
He's bowled well. I'm not sure about Santner. Would be the only one that I dispute.
Yeah.
What's Pant done in the tournament? Sorry, what's Richard Pant done? What's his top score? 20 not out.
He got a few runs last match.
That's the only one he's developed. And if we've got
is that because he's the only Indian player they've picked? So they've got to pick an Indian player.
Wicket keepers in opening the batting. Why do you need Pant in the middle?
I don't know what Pant's done. Where's Rohit and Rahul?
If you wanted to pick somebody in the middle, well, the one bloke I think, and I've said to Norman before, is Rahul. To me, has become the most elegant player in the world. He plays
absolutely
unbelievable.
Absolutely, he looks
the
fantastic.
Pakistani guy won the 2 games, but in all the 6s, right? The death, Asif Ali. How can he not be even thought of? Because he literally won 2 games, didn't he? By smacking it. I know he only faced a handful of balls. And wouldn't you have Rashid? I'd have Rashid in there. Crikey. I think he's probably the best white ball bowler in the world, Adil Rashid, on figures. And
I would have Rashid Khan. Rashid Khan, what are you talking about?
No, I'm talking about Adil Rashid, the English leg spinner. He took 4 for 2.
I know he's good. But Rashid, you can't. You're saying anyone with the name Rashid should also include Rashid Khan.
But I'd have Adil Rashid above Zampa. I know. I'm not saying
Zampa's played really well.
He has, but Rashid is better. He's just
I don't deny that. But I'm not denying that.
Rashid's delivered it. And again, I think he has responded to his captain. His captain uses him exactly the right times. He just doesn't bowl him a 4 straight overs. So that's an interesting debate between those two. But if you've got Rizwan and Butler opening the batting, and they're both accomplished keepers. Why do you need another one? Because you wouldn't if you
Well,
were
it's because they haven't picked any other player.
on his keeping. On his batting alone. Well, he's just a little tubby lad who just has a slog all the time.
Oh, don't say that, David. You're going to sound like me. Stop it.
Well, he needs to, he's going to be quite a big boy when he grows up. So
and where's Bumrah, by the way? Can't have a side without Bumrah in it. It's one of the best death bowlers ever.
Yeah.
He's
just a great player. I'd have Bumrah in any side.
I'd have instead of the South African guy who has actually done really well.
Just but Markram, how's Markram getting the side? Aidan Markram, I mean, give me a break.
But hang on, we're forgetting.
I do think he's actually quite a good player. Actually,
he hasn't played badly. Look, we can't have a team like this without having a Pakistan bowler. Shaheen Afridi deserves to be in there on his performances so far. Surely.
Yeah.
Well,
doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
basically, I wouldn't select anybody who has the likelihood of bowling a no ball. In fact, I'd dock half their fee if they bowled a no ball. And they're not little no balls. Some of these guys, they're about 6 inches over all the time.
That was an official play. Is that one of our loyal listeners, Norman, or was that an official ICC tournament?
No, I think it's one of the listeners.
No.
Because I'd have some argument with that. I really would.
Oh yeah, Shamsi he's also a bowler for South Africa, I must say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, come on. You got better bowlers. You could bring Moeen Ali in then. If you're going to bring Shamsi in, you bring Moeen Ali in, don't you? And inspired captaincy, Norman, by Morgan again. Ali didn't bowl a ball against Australia, and he'd been player of the game the previous game.
Because Finch was there all the time, wasn't he?
So, but that's good captaincy, isn't it?
I understand what you're saying, but I do think that actually, when Australia were losing quite a lot of wickets, and it was stick or twist for Finch, do I try and bat the overs or do I try and launch an onslaught? It would be quite a good exercise to put him on for one over
with Ali,
just to get him out more than anything else. Because if you got him out, then their innings would have been over with 16 overs. So.
Oh, don't! Poor old Australia! You don't rub it in anymore.
Well, they're going to lose the Ashes 3-1. They're going to get hammered in the semi-finals, so things aren't looking good.
I wish. I mean, we're going to be in winter. Oh, that's the case.
The fact you've got Ben Stokes and Joe Root already in Australia with the rest of them, it's quite a master stroke. They've done well to get them there early. Ahead of even the Australians not even back.
But they're not going to play any cricket, are they?
That's what they plan to do, is to give them a bit of time off. Ben Stokes has definitely made not a miraculous recovery, but I can assure you, being a left arm spinner and the casualties that England have had of Ansari, Yardi, they played international cricket. It was fantastic for them. They fractured their index finger and the end of their career because they couldn't basically grip the ball because it became like a stiff finger, if you see what I mean. So there's no flexibility. So Ben Stokes breaking his left index finger. There's a limit in terms of having nets and doing that or whatever. He has to get over a mental hurdle of somebody like Cummings, somebody like Stark bowling back of the length balls that are going to likely to hit him on the bottom hand and how he's going to cope with them. Because I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't turn out with a boxing glove on. Something like, you've seen people who've had broken hands and they've ended up having to have, specially made gloves and things like that. His injury was a serious injury.
Is the boxing glove to whack David Warner with?
Reoperate on it, Norman, and put steel screws in it.
I want not to forget something a bit left field here, but the new CEO of the Brabham Foundation and Museum is Andrew Leeming. Now, David, you haven't met Andrew, have you? And Reg, you haven't met him?
No, I don't know. No.
He's a great friend of mine. I told you about the man that owns the Brabham House, 52 Shepherd Street. He's come in now to be the CEO. He's worth a lot of money. It's not about money. He is the quintessential person who should be the curator of the most highest of the honour of actually taking care of the Bradman Foundation is immense, and he's going to do a great job. And David, when you come to Australia next, I'll get you to meet Andrew. You'll be so impressed with him. He once was a partner of Wellington Investments, that is a Boston-based investment company, one of the biggest in the world, and has trillions under management. He's extremely done a great. He bought the Bradman House, brought it back to immaculate condition. He's going to take care of a Glebe Street address, which is another Bradman home. The museum is going to be absolutely astonishing. They've had a change of chairman as well. It's going to be.
So he's based at Bowral, is he?
Andrew owns the place in Barrow. Yes, yeah. He's also got the first general store there in a place called Barrowang. It's amazing. The
ground itself, Reg, is unbelievable. We played I was supposed to be managing the one-day squad. This was a test series that we eventually lost 3-1 after Dean Headley bowled Australia out at Melbourne. And actually, if a run-out decision had gone our way, this is before VAR or whatever we're doing, referral, Slater should have been given run-out, and we didn't manage to win that. But the preparation for the one-day squad meant that we played a one-day game at Bowral on New Year's Day, I think it was. And this was the first time that Brett Lee appeared on the horizon. The ground estate is a beautiful ground, but not the biggest ground.
No.
So we had a situation of somebody bowling about 4,000 miles an hour. So that the wicket kick, so he's open with the fielding restrictions, only 2 people outside the boundary, outside the circle. So the slips and the keeper are on the maximum of where the rings are, and the third man is standing directly behind first slip, about 5 yards away, because that's how big the ground was. And that was the first time
I can't wait for you guys, both of you, to meet Andrew Leamy. You'll be so impressed with his vision, his respect of the history of not only Bradman but the whole era. He's going to turn that museum into. He's going to put things in there that no one's ever seen from the 1911 era. He's got so much great stuff already. I'm ecstatic. You wait. It's the best appointment. He actually starts Monday, which is this coming Monday. Officially starts.
I did see something actually, Norman, talking about Bradman, which was an interview with Ian Chappell about Bradman, and I would have to say it was not the most complimentary interview that's ever been done. Is that a view that's been held by lots of people, that actually, as great a player that he wasn't necessarily a very nice chap?
Yeah, that was unfortunately what was held. And even when he was in the chairmanship role of the Australian Cricket Board, he was also very antagonistic in the way he used to do things. But in particular, we're going to go back to Victor Richardson, who played with Bradman, and they didn't like each other. And obviously, Victor Richardson is the grandfather of the Chappells.
All right. So that's probably where it comes from.
It's a family feud almost. And Ian Chappell, look, I've got a lot of respect for him. Even Neil Harvey, who is still alive, he's got misgivings about it. Although I brought Neil down to this Bradman house about a year ago, and it was the most enjoyable day we've ever had to sit there and eat cake off a plate from the 1948 Invincibles tour, which has Neil Harvey on it, and he pushes the cake to one side and he goes, "Oh, that's me." It was hilarious. They were original 1948 everything. The man's got an amazing place. And it's not just a part-time collection. It is serious stuff. He owns the Bradman cap that's worth about $500,000, which is sitting at Lord's on display. Victor Trumper hats. He's got incredible wisdom collections, and he's just got authenticity down to sewing machines, gramophones from 1911, stoves from 1911. Everything the house is 1911. It's got a famous war picture, which is from that time, and the history is immense. You have to go and see it, and I'll make sure you both, next time you're in Australia, will be taking a personal tour of this location that will blow you away.
Norman, I'm a massive fan of Bradman. Of the legacy that he has. I don't want to hear bad things about him. I hate all this. The guy's been gone a long time.
It was a shock to hear that interview, but Norman's actually explained why it would have happened between
But look,
And
it was very
quite
much like,
iconic player at Gloucestershire, not WG, because he wasn't exactly straightforward to say the least. But Wally Hammond, whose record is extraordinary
Yeah,
in
amazing
terms
record.
of as a batsman, bowler, catcher, everything. He was in the same bracket. People didn't like him very much. Never signed an autograph. Sort of mass womanizer and whatever. So it's but you can't dispute.
I wonder if history
You can't
has
dispute
a job or not to tell the true story, or you just go with the legend that is left. I'd rather sometimes you just stick with the legends and let it go, rather than find out that they weren't very nice and people didn't like them. Because who wants to hear that? I just don't want to know. If Bradman wasn't a nice guy, I don't want to know that. I just want to remember that this guy is absolutely the greatest ever cricketer who's ever played.
No.
well,
That's what I want to know.
for this particular Bradman location in Barrel,
Yeah.
52 Shepherd Street, is to me a house which is should be the most revered house of any sports person in any sport of any era. You talk to Jack Nicklaus or even a Babe Ruth at the time, or Michael Jordan, when someone mentions to those guys who was the greatest sports person ever, they won't say Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus. They will say, even though they don't know a lot about cricket, they will say Donald Bradman.
Quite right too.
On the stats, it's a stats thing for them, isn't it? They would not know much about cricket, but they would look at his record as against every other person who's ever played the game and say, therefore, he must be streets ahead. And it's right. His record transcends the sport, doesn't it?
But it's not just cricket; it's all sport.
Yeah, all sport. From what he's done, he's so far ahead of everyone else.
So the fact that Andrew Leeming has put together an actual bringing back to life by like a virtual archaeological dig of the place is most immense. His front door has the pane glass, a small chip that was found. He replicated it perfectly to exactly the way the door was. He has a photo from 9/11 where he replicated everything. The plants, the coloration of the walls, everything is exactly the way it was, every dimension. It is the best restoration I've ever seen. Forgetting cricket. And you wait until you see it. You'll be shocked. And what he's about to do with the greater museum and the greater foundation will belie anything you can imagine. He will put it on the pedestal to the point where it's almost hard to believe. Worth waiting for, worth coming to see. I recommend anyone to see it. It's the cricket. It's the mecca of cricket. There's no doubt.
How far outside of Sydney is Burrell?
About an hour and a quarter, hour and a half.
Yeah. Because I remember Bradman talking about how difficult it was for him to get into the city in those days.
Very pretty area, I must admit. So.
Rodney Cavalier, who was a former chairman of the SCG Trust, has a virtual state library at the back of his house. He lives around the corner. Andrew's place is there. It's just something to behold. And as what David's been there, it's an amazing site. But even if you get a tour of there are pictures all around the neighbourhood. Some of them you have to unearth like an archaeological dig, and they're grounds that Bradman played on. Creates an incredible history. I can tell you a lot more when you come. There's a place where he was born, not where he lived, but where he was born, is Cootamundra. He was only there for a brief time. The little house where his family was is still there, but it's just left abandoned. It should be a shrine. It's amazing. Anyway, I won't talk about that. So
let's talk about can India get through? Because they've put themselves in an amazing position with their run rate now. Credit to them for doing that. If Afghanistan beat New Zealand, India will get through, won't they?
Hang on a minute. If Afghanistan beat New Zealand, Afghanistan could get through.
No, because if they absolutely murder New Zealand, which I don't think would happen, because India have now put their run rate above Afghanistan and New Zealand. And let's face it, India are probably going to make even better run rate against Namibia, you'd think. So, or whoever they're playing, Namibia, isn't it? So, that puts them in prime position if New Zealand slip up. I think if New Zealand,
if Afghanistan, I think they prefer to bat first and try and get some runs on the board. And if they get sufficient, 150, 160, something like that, and they can get guts around straight away, their spinners, because Nabi didn't bowl a ball in the last match, so I don't know if he was injured. Then they've had this rather odd thing of the bloke retiring in the middle of the tournament for some apparent reason.
Yeah.
One of their former captains.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. So
I think that they can. And also, I think Rashid has got to. And this is only watching it on the TV, Reg. He's got to focus on what he's doing in his own team. He seems to be very pally with the opposition. Wink here, and a bit of a smile or whatever. He needs to be absolutely focused because they have a fantastic opportunity. Everybody thinks they're going to get through, but they could easily get through if they're not. If people.
Afghanistan's net run rate is 1.481.
Yeah.
India's is 1.619.
Yeah.
They're in front, but not by. It's not a huge number.
Yes, but India have got to win anyway. Otherwise, they haven't got a chance. So, assuming they're going to win, that their run rate has to increase anyway because they've won. And one would have thought, playing Namibia, they will increase it enough that it will make it very hard for Afghanistan to catch that run rate.
New Zealand have got to have a serious wobble, Reg, for them to lose.
And also, you've got to bear in mind, Norman, that India are playing the day after. So if Afghanistan won, India will know whether they're batting first or batting second, exactly what they need to do. It'll be literally spelt out to them. They have to win at 12 overs or they have to win by 50 runs. They'll know exactly what the situation is, won't they?
Oh, no, you're totally right. I mean, you would think that if Afghanistan were to beat New Zealand, India would go through, as long as they won their last match. I
just think it's. I know disrespect to New Zealand or whatever, but for the tournament as a whole, if you ended up with with India and Pakistan playing in the semi-finals, then there's going to be an extraordinary atmosphere at the grounds.
Yeah, not good for England, though. We don't want that. I would suggest that we don't want India to get through. England-India semi would be great for the tournament, great for world cricket, not good for England.
This is a good point, Tim.
I think New Zealand, motivated by the loss in the World Cup final, will be keen to try and rectify that.
Yeah, but I'd rather be playing New Zealand in Abu Dhabi than India. I think we've got more chance of beating New Zealand, Norman. One, it's a spinners tournament, and India and New Zealand haven't really got a great one. Well, they've got Santner. Well, that's nothing to be worried about.
Leg spinner, Reg. Dodi.
Leave me out. I'd rather face him than I'd face Ashwin, Jadeja, and Chakravarti. Yeah. I mean, let's face it, they're not going to leave Ashwin out again, are they? That was the. I find
but it's noticeable to realise it's taken India a number of games to work out what was their strongest team.
No, it's taken Kohli that number of games because everyone knew what their strongest team was. In fact, I still don't think they're playing their strongest team. I don't think Kohli gets in. I really don't. I think I'd rather see Ishan Kishan in there. I don't think Kohli's a 2020 player particularly. Yeah. That's just my opinion. I think that it's. But Ashwin, how does Ashwin not play?
Because of there's a dissension in the camp, and that's why he's not playing.
Yeah, that's a strong character.
Yeah. Is that normal to do with his podcast?
To be fair, even against Scotland, he was going around the park a bit. So.
Well, Ashwin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good though.
Warner's 73 not out.
Oh, don't talk about Warner.
Mitchell about Warner. 3 not out.
Spawning register.
Warner's just hit another 6.
Just can't. David, I can't bear Warner. I just can't bear him.
He's not a nice person, is he really? So.
I don't know him. I don't know much about him off the field from what I've only bits and pieces. But I'm going to guess that he's not everyone's favourite cup of tea. I don't know. Well, even his teammates don't care for him too much, do they? That's from what I
Well, they've struggled
understand.
to
So
defend some of his actions. I would have to say.
Yeah.
But, anyway, guys,
I
I'm
would
going to have to peel off now because
that's okay.
my family has arrived.
All right, Dave. It's been
What
fantastic
time are
having you on.
What time's your next appointment?
Oh, I'm going to be on every day now because we're getting close to the pointy end. So it'll probably be about,
Oh,
depending on what
just-
day time the games are on, it'll
Just
be in
send me the
conjunction
link.
with that.
Send me the link and we'll go from there. Because
You come on for the semi-final, David. Come and talk about the England-New Zealand semi.
Well, you've got to be there when England plays, David. I'm expecting you there for the semi-final and final when England play.
Yeah, no, they'll be there. Don't worry. They'll be.
That'd be great. That'd be good.
The only problem is, Norman, that events within the country will probably supersede their performances here. So, in the Middle East, which would be a shame. But I think, as Reg would know, but you wouldn't, Norman, is that the media, as I said to you, the media have got it between their teeth.
Which time I said absolutely. There's going to be a witch hunt. There's going to be a load of players.
About sort of things to do with sport. Reg. It's a fair indication of how important they think it is when it's the first item on a news program, even before climate conferences in Scotland. Shows you how serious the subject it is. Quite rightly.
There was one point. I know. Just quick, 10 seconds, David. The guy who brought the case had 43 allegations that he brought up, and the report only upheld 7 of them. What happened to the other 36? Now, well, either it's just hearsay and they couldn't prove it either way, or they said he had no case on those other 36. I don't know, but that's going to all be brought up, isn't it? At the parliamentary, there's a parliamentary hearing coming up.
Yeah, I think that will be. I think if it's the one if I'm going back to around the 100-ball game, Reg, they wanted to ask some questions of how much is this costing, what's the implication if it doesn't work, and actually, Tom Harrison in that situation was economic with the truth, I think would be the description that they've used. But fortunately, 100-ball game was a great success.
Yeah,
this will be, I think, about how Yorkshire run as a club, as opposed to those, because I think some of them were removed, and I know legal experts, so this is only my opinion. If it's one person's word against another person's word, and it can't be verified, how can it stand up?
Yeah,
I think the ones that have stood up is there some other evidence or witnesses that actually justify. Because the one thing that they doesn't seem to get that much mention is the situation between Andrew Gale and Ashwell Prince when Yorkshire played Lancashire, which actually was quite a big disciplinary thing, and that had racial undertones. So I don't know whether that reappears, but I think it's more. Which is always, I don't know what your thought, Reg, is that fine, the report's been done, but why sit on it? You know.
Well, as I understand it, there was legal implications why they wouldn't print it, go public with it, because I assume a lot of players were getting, he said, you said sort of things where they couldn't prove it. But now that it's going to go to a parliamentary committee, I forget what they're called, it's got a name, DPS or something like that. I think it's a DPS or something like that. Apparently that privilege is waived in a parliamentary committee. So legal requirements don't come into it. So I assume Rafiq is just going to sit there and name every single player by name and every single official by name, and that's going to absolutely throw the whole cricketing world in this country up into the air, because these players are then going to say, hold on, that never happened, but they're going to be named. And so therefore the press are going to have a field day whether it's true or not.
Well, I don't know the implications of the actions that have taken, how Yorkshire are going to continue. You haven't got any sponsors, you haven't got any international cricket, you've got a massive ground to maintain. That's going to be a major issue for them.
It's going to be a shocker. This has got a long way to go, this story.
Badly,
they've already taken Michael Vaughan out of his radio show. Norman, did you know that? Michael Vaughan's been suspended from his radio show. He does a...
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
But of course, he says, I never said it. He said it didn't happen.
So another guy came along and verified it. That's the problem.
Yeah, but
Well,
we
it's
don't
not
know
like
what his agenda is. It's all, you just,
being
you know,
disingenuous.
it's shame. It's got
Reg,
to.
I'll see you
So
tomorrow.
Australia have
then.
equalled.
Episode
Australia have
2.
equalled West Indies score. They've lost a wicket, and it's interesting how Mitch Marsh just got out. Chris Gale has bowled the last over, and Chris Gale has got the last laugh. He's just taken a wicket. He's gallivanting around. He's just grabbed Mitch Marsh and jumped all over him. He's making a bit of a farce at the end of this game. Actually, I'm not impressed with Gale. He's making a bit of a comic sketch. That's not the way you end this. You know, obviously it's his last round of World Cups. Clearly,
yeah. Cheers, David. You have a good day, my friend.
Thank you, David. Great to have you on.
See you later, guys.
Cheers.
Book you in for the England games coming up.
Right.
Well, especially the definitely come up for that. For the semi-finals and final. Thanks, David.
See you later.
Cheers, David.
Reg, do you actually think the form that we're seeing here from Australia is indicative of anything at all?
I think they're a good side. I'm consistent with that opinion. I think they're a good side. I think the West Indies have had a very poor tournament. I think West Indies is necessarily a poor side. I think that sometimes you talk about momentum in all sport, but particularly in cricket. And when I remember when Chris was growing up and he played, as you know, right through the county system from a very young age, they were always talking about momentum being massive in cricket, particularly. I think the West Indies have just got on a terrible roll here, and I think it's hard sometimes to get it back. And I think that some of their older statesmen, the West Indies, don't really care that much. And I don't think it matters to them quite that much. You see them running around with a big smile on their face, and you know, and what Gale's just done, and it should matter more, Norman. It should bloody hurt, and you know they should.
Well, there's been smacked by Australia.
Not laughing and joking about it. I mean, looking at pictures here, DJ Bravo, big grin on his face, Gale, big grin, Pollard. You know, I'm really sorry, guys. You've been absolutely embarrassed in this tournament. You shouldn't be laughing about it. And I've been in losing dressing rooms, Norman, and I've not been smiling. You know,
No, it frustrates me watching this actually.
You know,
it's almost looks like a warm-up match that's down the park or something.
Yeah. Exactly right, and now they're hugging and kissing. All the West Indians are hugging. The Warner's just won it, and we've got big smiles from the West Indians. They're all hugging and kissing Gale. It's like it didn't matter. It's like they've gone into the game. They don't really care, and they should bloody care because they've got some great, very proud supporters, and they've got a great heritage and tradition. When I was growing up, the West Indies were the side to be feared. They stuffed everybody in sight for 20 years. I think I'm right, Norman. You agree with me there? From the mid-70s.
Absolutely. This is not the way a West Indies team would play back then. They would not fart us around with this and throw and get Roston Chase and Gale to finish the innings off.
If I was a West Indies supporter and selector, I'd be saying to a few of those guys, "Yeah, thanks a lot, bye."
It's not the stage to be bucking around.
Terrible scenes for me. All right. I don't mind them shaking hands when they're lost and saying well played, but when you're literally celebrating a loss, all right, Bravo's obviously this is him retired and Gale retired, but there are ways to do it, Norman. There are ways to do it, and
I'm very embarrassed at this. But the thing is that even though Australia have just won this game relatively easily, I don't think they can take any of this form into the next round. I really don't. I mean. Look at the way that England beat Australia. They absolutely pulverised them.
Yeah, we've got a better bowling attack, haven't we, than the couple of the sides I've come up against recently. They've looked good, Australia, but you know, I know I just said it earlier. Adil Rashid is a very, very fine white. Do you know what? Adil Rashid should be playing Test cricket, Norman. If he was in the Ashes,
I agree.
Now that Stokes is back in, you could bring Rashid in. As your luxury.
He's not a part of the squad, is he, though?
No, he's not playing Test cricket. And but if he could be persuaded just to change his mind, he would give a leg spin. Australia, as we know, is a good thing to have. As against a finger spinner, you know, they generally have had a good record, haven't they, leg spinners? And such a good bowler, Norman. I mean, there we go. He's not playing, so that's what it is. But I think Australia coming up against better spinners, and they will going to probably play Pakistan if things go according to plan.
I honestly, I know you're not going to agree with me, but I think Pakistan will win that
I think
very strong.
No, I think Pakistan. Norman, go back to before the tournament. Who did I tell you? I thought was going to be in the final. I thought India.
I know, and Simon Willis also. I did say Pakistan, but I wrongly said Australia. That was a mistake, and I wrongly said West Indies.
Yeah, I thought Pakistan would perform well, not only because they're always in a major upheaval. So the fact that they're in upheaval this time makes no difference to them. They're used to that. And the fact that they've played most of their cricket for the last 10 years in the UAE means they know
that's the key.
And they've got some really, really good players. I mean, Barbara Azam is a lovely cricketer to watch. Crikey. You pay your money to go and watch players like that, don't you?
But you've got to take your head off to the actual Pakistani team squad. I'm talking not about the players, I'm talking about, obviously Matthew Hayden and Verlander have had an effect. And also, claim the bowler is certainly proven to be a pretty good coach to these guys. It's intriguing because they did get rid of Waqar Younis, Wasim Akram, I think, or whoever. They got rid of quite a few notable players. But you know what I believe happened?
Inzi was involved, wasn't he, as well?
Yeah, but I think there may have been some egos involved there that didn't sit very well, and that's what may have been the case. And no, it wasn't Inzi. It was Misbah ul Haq.
Oh, Misbah. Sorry, yeah. There's always egos in Pakistan cricket, Norman, and obviously the powers that be above the team and the management are big egos as well. So it's always a big battle, isn't it? But I do think getting someone like Matthew Hayden. Did you say it's Vernon Philander is involved?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, these are. I mean, I'm a big fan of Matty Hayden as a cricketer. We spoke about that many months ago as well. I'm a big supporter. I love him.
He's a very warm and engaging fellow, and that's what his success would have been in that group.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know him at all like that. For me, he strikes as a big, arrogant monster of a man because I don't know him. I just watch the way he played his cricket.
No, he's not. He's a gentle giant.
But him playing cricket was I hated it. I hated him playing England. He walked down the wicket in the first over and hit it through extra cover for 4. Awesome. Bloody brilliant to watch, Hayden. What a player. So if he can give that, and you can see someone like Harris Ralph, who I know you know well, but he strikes me Harris Ralph quite a humble guy who's appreciating his rise in cricket. And you can see someone like Vernon Philander having a massive influence on him because he wants to listen and learn, Harris Ralph, doesn't he?
Oh, he would be listening and learning a lot.
Yeah, and that's that's vitally important, isn't it? So you get the right people involved, and it makes a difference, doesn't it?
Well, Pakistani players. I mean, Shaheen Afridi is also very humble. He's a very nice kid. He really is. They're very impressive.
Sometimes your persona on a cricket field isn't what you are like in real life, is it? It's a weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Matthew Hayden's a very gentle giant. So is Glenn McGrath. He's also a lovely bloke.
Hated him. Can't stand him. Don't talk about Glenn McGrath. Don't. The best thing he ever did in his career, Norm, you know what the best thing he ever did?
What's that?
We stood on that bloody football at Trent Bridge before the second test of the 2005 series. Thank God he did that. Not only did it give us the greatest test series of history, but it also meant that England won a bloody Ashes series. Because if he hadn't stood on that
the toss is due here for this England versus
Is it coming on now? I haven't got it on. Sorry, I'm watching a bit of snooker.
29 minutes to go.
All right. They'll have it on the telly here. I'm sure I'll keep you abreast of what's going on. So we think that the semi-finals are fairly well done and dusted, don't we? It's Pakistan.
Well, England and Australia are through now, I'd say, and so is Pakistan.
I don't think South Africa can get through, can they? Unless they've got to massacre England by a big.
They won't.
No, because Australia
England better smash them because they did it to Australia.
But if they don't, then the South Africa would have to win by, because the run rate. The Australia have just increased it anyway. You're probably, I haven't got a table in front of me because I'm on my mobile. I wouldn't be able to look at. I cut myself off if I had a look. But I would imagine that South Africa would have to win by in either 11 overs or by 70 runs or something, which is I would find unlikely. So it's going to be Pakistan versus Australia, and England versus India or New Zealand. Well, no, India or Afghanistan, isn't it? Because New Zealand's and or India. Yeah. Because I don't think Pakistan.
I mean, look, if Afghanistan win well, they still could sneak in. They could sneak in.
I think that's very unlikely. So it's either in India or New Zealand. Yeah. Okay.
No, I agree. I agree that it's unlikely, but you've got to give it to Afghanistan. They're actually putting themselves in the picture here to actually get away with this. Quite remarkable.
But I don't think they've got a win by that magnitude in them. I think they've win them, but they'd have to beat New Zealand by a considerable margin to then put their run rate above India's. I think that'll be the thing, because India are going to stuff Namibia.
Yeah, it does look like there's a word here about. There is word about. It looks like Mark Wood's going to get a Guernsey today.
Yeah, I thought he might. I
thought Willie would have got a Guernsey. Anyway.
They like Mark Wood, Norman. We've spoken about this, and I think they see that pace as vital in the mid overs. I don't think he'll open the bowling. I think he'll bowl in the 8 to 15 over spell, where pace can make a difference. That's what I think for Mark Wood. I do think, though, in this tournament, Norman, you talk about small things. I think the way
England have won the toss and the bowling.
There's a surprise. Norman. So they're taking it seriously then.
Well, that's just about smashed South Africa out of the park.
Just showing the toss here now. They're showing it. Is it not live? Then you say they've already done the toss, have they?
Yeah.
Okay. You're right. Morgan won the toss.
I like to bowl.
Yeah. So what I was going to say about the small things is, for India, I think the tiny little things have just gone against them. What I mean by that is they always start tournaments badly. All their fans will tell you they're not a great starter of a test series or a tournament by not playing the minnows at the top. If their first game had been against Scotland or Namibia, I think they could have had a bit of a slowish start. They still would have won, and all of a sudden they're up and running in the tournament. By playing all the main sides, New Zealand and Pakistan, their first two games, and having a week's break as well between those two matches, that just didn't help them. It really didn't, and it's come back to haunt them a little bit. Now you can't blame the way the tournament's just under a draw. I'm sure it was just drawn out of a hat the way the matches were going to be played. But if their first game had been against Namibia or Scotland, I think you would have found India would be in a semi-final. I really do.
I agree. They played the hardest game first.
Yeah, but that's just the way it is. That happens to all sides in various times, doesn't it? We've all sat there and thought, "Oh, that's not a good draw." You just have to get on with it, and you have to plan accordingly. So, is it late then, Norman? It's only about 11:30, isn't it, or is it 12:30?
It's 12:30, 12:30.
That's early for you. You'll be off out meeting your lady friends, right? You not after this, Norman? How was Diwali?
The partner was supposed to be on the show. The partner was supposed to be on the show, and I met up with Shimon the other day, and she was supposed to be on the show too.
I imagine a partner still recovering from Diwali celebrations with you, Norman.
Well, Shimona played today. I think she played cricket. Oh, she played cricket today. So the results. This is England win the toss and bowl. The results have suggested that chasing does help, says Morgan, having experienced trying to defend with a dew in their last match against Sri Lanka. Wood is the man to come in for Mills. England otherwise unchanged. So Wood's in.
And unchanged. South Africa unchanged as well. I'm just looking at the side here. They're unchanged. Oh, the last game, I've never seen anything quite like it when England played. Obviously, I watched England games more closely. That year was terrible. Crikey, it was absolutely soaking wet, that ground, to play with. That's changed. I've never seen them change a ball because it was so wet. I know it has happened, but I couldn't remember seeing it. The ball was so wet, that's changed. And the towel they were using to dry it, that's changed the towel. It was absolutely wringing wet. That's
I'm sad for Tyler Mills because he was looking good and could have put a big stamp on his position in the side. But anyway,
no, Norm, we've had terrible injury problems. He had back surgery in the summer, last summer, I think last summer. He's struggled. He can't play anything more than 20 over cricket. That's all he plays. He doesn't play any other cricket at all because he
plays it well. But he plays it well.
Yeah, and he's a nice lad too. He's a nice lad.
You know him?
No, I don't. I don't know if Chris has met him. I think Chris might have played against him. I
think Chris mentioned that he did.
Yeah, Chris faced a few quick bowlers in his time, and as a parent, you sitting behind, you're ducking behind your hat and your jumper, and you're going, "Oh my God, he's going to give him one up in his head in a minute." I remember Steve Finn.
Brown says Group 1 is lovely. Last match, and they still haven't finished the decided on the second.
Yeah, so they're going to have to win by a big total here. Sorry.
Hang on then. Bavuma says he would have bowled too. Of course he would have. We're going to have to start well with the bat. It can be tough starting off here, but I will have to see what total we can put up. South Africa and change. Bavuma suggests they will focus on getting a score before working about the net run rate scenarios when bowling. Okay.
Here's another one who shouldn't be in the side, Norman. Bavuma. I know why he's in the side, and that don't upset anyone, but I mean, he's not a 2020 player. He scores.
No, at all. Not in the slightest. He's a long format player, and he'd probably be the first to admit to it. Too.
Yeah, I mean, it's nonsense. 40 or 40 balls is not going to win them at any tournament. I mean, I'm not a Steve Smith fan in the 2020 side either, although he's a bit better than that, and he's a fine player. I just think that, I mean, Australia must have the biggest proportion of their Test side in their 2020 side, haven't they? I mean, it's almost a Test. Which
I mean, I'm not impressed with Australia using Hazelwood, Stark, and Cummins for their T20. That's an unusual thing for me. I think that's what that tells you. What that tells me is they haven't got any. They're outside of their top bowlers. They haven't got anyone to support them. Honestly, they truly haven't.
But they've got some good Andrew Tye, and they've got another young quick bowler who's played a lot. They obviously haven't got any faith. Guy Richardson, yeah.
But that's not
a guy, Norman.
But hang on, Nessa, Sean Abbott.
Yeah, and what about Cameron Green? Is he not he's the next big all rounder, isn't he?
Yeah, no, he's an all rounder at best. He's not, and he hasn't taken a wicket in Test cricket yet. Look, Australia have a lack of bowlers.
Lack of bowlers, crikey! They've got the best four in the world. Near enough.
Yeah, but that's the fact of it. That's all. If you go beyond that, they haven't.
Are you saying to me that when they retire, which they're going to sort of getting towards Nathan Lyon, Stark, and Hazel? Well, Hazel's a bit younger, but Stark and Lyon must be getting a little bit towards the end. Are you saying there's no one coming in? They've got
I just think Australia are very, very much over-reliant on Hazel, Stark, and Cummins. And obviously Lyon as well there from a Test perspective. Adam Zampa's come to the fore, but that's it.
Do you see Zampa as a Test match player of the future then?
I think he deserves to be, yes. He could well have followed Lyon. Why not?
Does he spin it enough in the Test arena? Will he is he I mean I haven't seen a lot of him bowl, but he's gonna have to give it a bit more tweak.
He normally gives it a real rip.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, it's obviously different. 2020 cricket's very different. Yeah, okay. Well, it'll be exciting to see. Any leg spinners exciting to see in Test match cricket, isn't it?
But he's been pigeonholed as a short form bowler. without doubt.
Yeah,
And his
but
IPL success is enormous. The
live
IPL's been very good for
37?
Zampa. The
Yeah.
IPL's been very good for Zampa.
Oh yeah, it brings them onto the big stage and having to bowl in pressure situations, doesn't it? And also getting a lot more cricket. There's a lot of cricket in the IPL, so these guys are getting much more match experience.
Did you read that from Barat?
No, I can't read it. I've got my glasses on, Norman, but I can't read that.
A Pom supporting an Aussie team and an Aussie not supporting the Aussie team. I have seen everything now. Okay.
I would like to say to Baram, I support cricket. I would like to think that I'm slightly biased in
Same
England's
here.
favour, as you'd expect, but I would try and give an honest, rational point of view. It might not seem that way, but I will try. Unlike you, Norman, 7-0. I mean, crikey, that was
I
ridiculous.
stopped. That's an Adam Hollyoak hangover. That's not for me. And what are they saying? They're saying that a 61 run for South Africa, where England's at. Okay. They're saying that
Okay.
South Africa would win by 61 runs or something like that.
And okay, so
make it happen.
South Africa are batting first. Right. So they'd have to win by 61 runs. Because England's, it doesn't matter how quickly England get bowled out, they still counts as 20 overs, doesn't it? That's how net run rate works. You are deemed to have played your full 20 overs. So they need to play 61 runs. So they've got to basically look to score 180, 170, and bowl England out for 110, 120.
It's not going to happen.
Could happen. That could happen, Norman, but I'd be interested to see them score 180 against this England attack. We'll see, won't we? I can't see New Zealand scoring 180 against this England attack we semi-final go. I think New Zealand have done well, but they haven't been, apart from Gutzel, no one's been really. Mitchell scored some runs, but it was in a game where they were winning easily.
England should smash New Zealand, and Pakistan should do a number on Australia. That would be fair. There would be fair positioning of England versus Pakistan in the final. That would be fair.
As we stand today, as the tournament is at this moment in time, the two best sides have been England and Pakistan by a long way at this moment in time on performances, isn't it? I know the tables haven't lied here. So if it was an England-Pakistan final, it could be a great game, and the toss will be massively important. I'm sure Morgan has won most of the tosses. I think he's only lost one. Will be desperately hoping he can win two more. That's for sure.
You'd have to argue that South Africa are going to be out. They can't win this.
And it could be his last two games, Morgan. Whether he's going to go on for, I don't think he'll play next year. I don't think he'll go on to Australia.
How old is Morgan?
He 36 maybe. He's not
Right.
massively old, but he's not playing any other forms of cricket at the moment, and his form's been down. And he made a decision when we won the World Cup 2 years ago. He was debating whether to carry on then, but I can guarantee if we win this, he'll go out on a high. As you would say, Norman, what a time to go out. No side has won, has held both belts, if you like, both cups jointly. No side has ever been in holder of the 20 and the 50 over competition, have they? So I would be surprised.
Australia have not gone close to winning a World Cup at T20 level, so this would be a big first for them.
If Australia win this tournament, that would be a major surprise to me and Norman. Although less to me, but more to Norman. And you'll be eating big slices of humble pie, Norman.
Oh, look, I'd be shocked if they win. I'll be happy for them to win. I'll be happy for them to win. But if it's based, look, Warner's just scored 85, okay, but against a very substandard West Indian bowling attack with Chris Gale bowling the last over of the innings, it was immediately a faux pas there.
Yeah.
But Australia can surprise everybody if they make the semi-finals. That's going to be a big surprise. If they make the final, it'll be an even bigger surprise. If
Australia were to win this tournament, Norman, would that strengthen Aaron Finch's position as the next Australian Test captain?
Yes.
Because that's what you think's going to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
No chance. No,
How can you say that? No one's better down that opening position with
not
with
good
Warner.
enough. He's not good enough, Finch. He's not a good enough player. Australia would never make a player.
Well, Owen Morgan hasn't been scoring runs either, but he's floating around.
But he's not going to be England Test captain, is he?
If they don't need him because they've got Joe Root.
Finch doesn't even make the team. I bet he's not even in the squad of 32 players if they pick one like that. Surely he's not even in the squad, is he? The Test squad.
If he wins this T20 tournament, he'll be in a lot of teams. I'll say. He's the captain. He's obviously the captain of our T20 side, right?
Do you honestly believe, Norman, that he's going to be the next Test captain?
Well, I'm not saying it's out and out, but he deserves to be given a thought. His team harmony is really, really, really high.
Because you think Payne will go on for this series, the Ashes, won't he? Payne's going to captain the Ashes team for this series, yeah?
Payne.
Payne. Yeah.
He's locked in.
Yeah. Okay. But then that's it. You think he won't? Because do they go? Where do they go? Do they go to South Africa? Where do they go after Ashes? Is it West Indies? No, England go West Indies.
I think people are coming here still. I think we've got a tournament.
New Zealand. New Zealand are coming for something, aren't they? Have we got against New Zealand as well? But do you think Payne will then step down after the Ashes? Do you think that's his swan song?
Who?
Payne.
Yeah, he will.
Because if they win the Ashes, then he steps down in glory, doesn't he? And if they lose the Ashes to England, he gets sacked anyway. So it's going to be it, isn't it?
I think that he will have a very positive end, and you've got to give credit to him because he had to come in trying circumstances, and that's to be respected, honestly.
Yeah,
honestly.
And he comes over as a good guy. So it's going to be Steve Smith, isn't it? Next captain, surely.
Yeah, well, Steve Smith's not the next captain. Brad Haddon said today on the news that he thought that Pat Cummins should be, but he won't be. It was interesting. They talked to Adam Gilchrist today too about Adam Gilchrist went through a lot of his history. Geez, he's an interesting guy to listen to. Very clever guy and very clear thoughts. Very, very impressive.
And what does he think? Did they say who he thinks the captain will be?
No, he didn't say. He wasn't asked that question. No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm trying to think of who it could be. Because there's no obvious candidate. Bringing a guy in who's not in the side to captain is not the Aussie way.
I was saying it's captain nobody, so he won't be.
It's going to be.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind saying. Look, I think that Collage is also possible.
Does he captain his state?
He won the Sheffield Shield as Queensland captain.
Okay. Did he
It
score?
was a very tough effort. To be honest, did a very good job.
Is it still called the Sheffield Shield, Norman?
Sorry?
Is it still called the Sheffield Shield?
It was called something else. It's back to Sheffield Shield.
All right, I was going to say because I always think of it as a Sheffield Shield as well. It
shouldn't be anything different than that. It always should be called that.
It's that sponsorship, isn't it? Often.
Yeah, but can't the sponsors call it, Sheffield Shield by Coke by? They can do something other than just to change the name of the shield doesn't necessarily make it a marketing bonanza. They can still sing Sheffield Shield sponsored by Coke, sponsored by. That to me would be more effective.
We had the Premier League football they call it the Premier League, and Barclays came in, and I think they said the English Premier League sponsored by Barclays. I think that's the way they termed it, or the Barclays Premier League, or they still kept it.
That's at least it gives credit to both the name of what it is and to a sponsor. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, Norman, I'm going to love you and leave you, and we'll enjoy the cricket, and hopefully England get a win. And then I shall be watching with interest the New Zealand-Afghanistan game tomorrow, with a lot of interest. And whether Chris comes on and takes the flack that he was getting yesterday, I know he couldn't get on. He was desperate, absolutely desperate to come on and defend himself against all that criticism, but he just couldn't. He was busy, unfortunately.
That's right. He'll come in and do time.
I'm sure he'll come on and defend himself because he certainly got some stick yesterday, which was very enjoyable. So, But I shall hopefully see you soon, Norman. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very
Take
much,
care.
Reg.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Great having both David Graveney and then Reg Vernon there on the show. They're very informative about England, about the cricket at large, the Yorkshire Cricket Club saga that's going on as well. That's quite horrific, quite damaging indeed. So yes, West Indies all 7 for 157 in their 20 overs, but then Australia came on and lost 2 wickets for 161, knocking their total off in some 16.2 overs. Not a bad effort. Warner actually played pretty well. West Indies didn't bowl well, nor did they bat well. And South Africa at this point are going to be out there to bat with England winning toss and bowling. The change in the Simon Mills obviously is out because of injury. Mark Wood is in, and there's no change to the South African side. So there you go. There's some pretty significant moves there, guys. All right, let's have a look at that guy on the field here. Foxtel go. So look here.
Swap because Wood is right arm compared to Mills.
Very exciting with coming out. The players are coming out now for their respective choruses, their respective anthems. Very impressive indeed. With what 2%? Has Gale officially declared? No, I think he has, but he should though. Moa, why? Why when these could not play well together as a team? I don't know. Don't know what's the problem there. I really don't know. It's hard to put your finger because they come across as very relaxed, very much together, but that's not the case. So sing the national anthems now. It's a very impressive start. Sharjah. The Vuma's ball is distinctly thicker because he's let it grow. All right. Yuvraj Singh may come out of retirement a new room. What? No, don't think so. This is Barama. So, Norman, please pray for tomorrow for Afghanistan. We all will be praying for Afghanistan to win. Never has there been so many people want Afghanistan to win a game, would it? While they're doing the national anthem, I was going to get the power pack, the power chord, so just listen to the anthems, and I'll be back in a sec, guys. Back in a sec, guys. I'll get some of these stands going. All the players are going down on their knees there very dutifully. I don't know whether there's any. All right. So as we can say, Angel Wings. Hello, gang. Angel Wings. What if Afghanistan beat New Zealand and then Namibia beat India? Oh my God, the tragedy. It would be a tragedy. Samoan Ali opens the bowling for England. Players going down on knees. No one going on his tushy. Exactly. I thought I'd relax. Abhishek Sharma. If America does manage to beat New Zealand, then they're more deserving of semi-final bit than India. Well, that's true. So today's landmarks, Petrorius and Wood are both in the sides. Mohamed's behind to Quinton de Kock. Krishna Mohan reckons South Africa's going to win. No, I can't say it. Unless, of course, England deliberately lose. That's a possibility. So we're looking at Quinton de Kock looks a little bit friend. England have got Jason Roy and Butler batting. For God's sake, and Moeen Ali and Morgan. They're going to get Bairstow back for the Test series. Oh, God. De Kock's gone for an aggressive 6 immediately. Quinton de Kock knows he can't stuff around. Kevin, Afghanistan beating New Zealand would be a miracle. Was it Kevin Gates? To the second 6? Quinton de Kock's got no qualms here. We can certainly go for it. Just to let you know, I've been on air for 2.5 hours, guys, and we're into Moeen Ali's very deep points and gullies there. I'm not sure Sean knows computer, but there's a. Well, the computer's totally got itself some sort of problem here. What's wrong with my computer? I'll go on, we'll restart it. See if restarting my computer does any good. Oops. Okay. My computer is playing up. Let's have a look in. See if it starts. It's had all sorts of issues. If Majid plays Afghanistan that second, it's quite possible Afghanistan can beat New Zealand. Okay. Go against over 1 billion people rooting for you. Yeah, even we got rooting for the Taliban. That's for the first time. Chris Wokes is coming in for the second over. Okay, so at this point in time, unless South Africa pull off a miracle, it will be Australia versus Australia in second spot in Group 1. So is Mujib fit to play? And any update? At this point, it looks like Mujib will play the match because it's extremely important. You know what's Norm doing? Norm's just relaxing. Quinton de Kock needs to throw a bit of caution to the wind and go for beginnings. What's wrong with my computer? It's really not playing it. Joel Wilson extending his 37th match. None for 7 is the score after some 1 point. So it was Chris Brown as the other umpire. Is Mujib fit to play? We believe he is fit to play, guys. We've finally got to start to my computer. It's taken a while for my computer to wake itself up. Owen Morgan must be a great captain. That's all I can say. We've talked a lot for the last 2.5 hours. We've talked to David Graveney, Reg Vernon, people who come online, including Baram. And the general consensus is that England are through, as so is the likes of Pakistan, and England's partner in their Group 1 will be Australia, with the partner in Group 2 being probably New Zealand, as India can concoct something very quickly here leading into the match. Okay, we'll work out what we're going to do here. Asking to restore a session. It is quite difficult to keep myself afloat here with this, I'm afraid, guys. So at this point in time, South Africa, well, they're starting with a reasonable start. Some websites no longer support Internet Explorer. Okay. I'll have to get rid of that then. But Google Chrome, they certainly do support. All right, guys, we might leave it at that. Let's tune in tomorrow. It looks like at this early stage that England will beat South Africa, and that would put Australia through to the semi-finals with them. and Pakistan. Next tomorrow we'll find it eagerly when the next time we see Afghanistan play New Zealand, and we all want Afghanistan to beat New Zealand so as potentially India can go through. So stay tuned. Talk to me soon. Talk to you later. Bye.